Okay, 1/3 already into the 5th video, and here we are. What I've done on this page here is done a whole series of different formats. You'll probably rarely use most of these, if any of these, so I've clubbed them all together into one video so you can see what they do and recall that when you see the heading for this, you'll go, oh yeah, that's the one with that really strange text layout. Just to go through it, just because you format text in HTML does not mean that text is going to format correctly when you see it on the screen. If we have a look at this first line, I've simply laid out the text in the way I'd like it to appear. And I've put enters and I've made sure it's tabbed in. Here I want some spaces to be added between the text. That's not going to stay. The paragraph marker will tidy that all up for us. So if I make these kind of silly errors, then it's not going to bother the text at all. If we just look at those two lines, don't think that laying out text in a special way and leaving spaces between, if we just have a look at those pages, we can see that actually they don't stay that way. They come out exactly as normal text. Nothing special has happened there. There are ways of doing special text and they're useful to know. This one's called the pre, and it allows you, it's pre-formatted text, and it allows you to keep the formatting. In fact, if you notice, this is quite some way away from the edge, and that's actually because I've indented the text there. So even the indents are actually being carried forward. If I wanted to sort that out, I'd actually have to bring this text in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave just some of the indents in place. So if I save that and reload the page, you can see that again that's impacted. The spaces have remained and everything else. We've also got other special formats that can be used, things that can be used for computer code. Most commonly, if you've ever used something called BB code, or if you've ever been onto forums, you'll know that there are certain shortcuts, certain commands you can use that formats the text in a given way, highlights it, and that's as true in HTML as in the other documents. They exist down here in this sentence here. In fact, what I'll do is I'll introduce a bit more space so you can see. Again, remember, all this space, I've just entered a whole load of enters, and yet if I save that and go to the page and reload it, the page hasn't changed at all. It won't do. So what I want to do is have a look back at this and say, okay, that's fine, but that's what we're looking at here. Look at this code, end code. That's generally used for computer code, which I've put it there. Keyboard text to show you that which key on the keyboard to press. The same kind of text that was used in teletext. If you don't know what teletext is, that's actually just been switched off, and it's a format that used to appear on television, so you can't get it anymore. But it's still there for you to be used in HTML. Sometimes called teletype text, by the way. Sample text, just as the name suggests, and variable text doesn't mean that the text changes every now and then, but that's to do with coding. And if you want to highlight a variable in text, notice these are not paragraph formatters, they are text formatters. They are elements that format only the text. They don't format an entire paragraph, and therefore they won't force things like carriage returns, enters at the end. If we have a look, we can see them here. They don't actually look enormously different except for variable text, and that's probably why most people don't use them most effectively. Sample text looks slightly different. This one here is the address text. Very, very simple, really nice to use, good for using for addresses. Any breaks and everything else are carried through. You could probably do the same thing, to be honest, with a paragraph anyway, but it's there if you need it. This is called the abbreviation. It's ABBR, and that's an abbreviation in itself, and that brings in the abbreviation so the text is there. A very similar one is the acronym. This is one, I've put an acronym in here, and this is what the acronym does. There's the abbreviation. If I move my mouse over top, the title I've given it comes up, short for abbreviation. If we have a look at the code again, title equals short for abbreviation. So whatever's in title will appear when my mouse goes over that word. Acronym is basically the same thing. It works exactly the same way. If I move my mouse over, that comes up. Just to be aware. And TLA is a 3-letter acronym. Bi-directional order. If your browser supports this, then this can happen. And if you're not too sure what that's saying, it's down here. Whoops, don't do that. It's this. Simply reverses the direction, it's override, sorry. It simply reverses the order of the text. RTL means right to left, and it simply reverses it, and you can use it for a number of different formats, different languages and everything else to sort that language part out. In this case, it simply puts the word in reverse. It doesn't, however, take it over to the right hand side. That would have to be something else. Again, it's only affecting the text at that point. Block quotes. Block quotes do exactly that. That's a whole quote. In fact, actually, only that part's a quote. I believe Einstein said it, and he didn't say any of this about being on charged soldiers and seeing your house. But there's a long quote for you, and there's a short quote. They don't actually have much impact. The block quote has more impact than the quote system. Have a look at this. One thing you ought to be aware of is that your browser page will affect how your text looks. But if I reduce the page size, up here is a standard paragraph, and you can see it goes right from the edge of the screen of the browser window right to the end. But look at the block quote. It's actually indented there and indented there, and if I reduce that down, it will force in the right character turns to maintain the fact that there is an edge, just like you should do when quoting from text. Obviously all the rest will fold down as well, so that is useful to be aware of. The smaller quote really doesn't have much difference between paragraph, so don't worry about that too much. And the last one is the delete and insert commands. Delete strikes through the word and insert underlines it. So you have those two options available to you again. Not enormously useful, I don't think, for static text, but you may find other reasons for it and be able to use it, but becomes much more useful when you have a dynamic website using HTML, PHP, MySQL and everything else. That's basically paragraph formatting. That's all the ones you have. Don't forget to pause the video, write all that in, try and experiment. You should get the same thing I do, and if you don't get the same thing I do, then you've typed in something wrong. Hope that's been useful. See you in video 6.